Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, you can call managers to counter-complain. This TSA line is too long. When's your flight? Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. You can call managers to counter-complain. In line at Costco gas. The lines are nuts because gas prices are nuts and Costco gas is cheap and convenient. Everyone is on edge. The Costco gas employees have to periodically sweep the lanes and clean up spilled gas. Just like at the registers, when they close a line, they stop people from lining up in that lane. They finish the people currently in the queue and direct other customers into different lanes so they can cone off the lane and sweep. I'm pumping gas and see this go down. A woman drives around the cones and into the lane they are sweeping like she's exempt from the process and is going to get gas. Employee guy jogs over and tells her in a normal tone, "Sorry ma'am, this lane is closed for the moment, can you please pull around into a different line?" She says, "Why?" He says this lane is closed. Sees an empty spot not yet filled in the adjacent lane, "You can go there." And points. She starts screeching, "You don't have to talk to me that way. I don't appreciate." Screech, screech, screech. A guy gets out of the passenger seat. Employee guy is babbling and pointing and waving, points at cones, empty lane, broom. Screeching lady turns into cursing lady and starts dropping expletives about how he can't treat me this and effing that. Passenger guy gives employee the finger. Employee is looking around because he's in over his head. Cursing lady starts with "Your manager is going to hear about this, you just lost your job," screech screech. Gets in car and peels out leaving. I finish pumping and go find a place to park. I Google the store phone number and call. I hit the number to speak with a manager. I ask for the manager in charge of the gas station. "Sorry, he's gone for the day. Can I leave a message?" Okay, can I tell you then? I just saw this whole thing go down. In a minute you're going to get a call from a lady claiming she was just disrespected by a gas employee and complaining a storm. Let me tell you what actually happened from an objective observer, because no way this guy did anything wrong and it's going to come down to his word versus crazy lady. Okay, thank you for the heads up, it's nice to hear he was doing the right thing. And oh, actually your lady is on the phone with this other manager right here it sounds like, and I'll pass along your message. Thanks for calling. Stand up for injustice. Dude, a customer did this for me one time when this crazy lady was screaming at me at the register, probably saved me getting written up. Good on you. Kinda BS your manager would take the word of a Karen over someone who works with him. Take my upvote because you did the good thing and gave them a heads up. My dad did this once. He was flying and a fellow passenger, business class, was awful to a flight attendant. At the end of the flight, he asked for a complaint card. My dad asked for one too as she came around. She welled up with tears and said, "You too? I just need to make sure they know firsthand how courteous and professional you were with a very discourteous, unreasonable passenger." I witnessed this at a pizza place once. Pre-COVID. Absolute madness. The dude came in and just sat down. They asked if they could help him, and he said, no. They were incredibly busy, which is why I was there for the whole thing. About 10 minutes later, he stands up and impatiently asks if his order is ready yet. They ask for his name and hand him his pizza that was on the warming tray. He absolutely loses his shit. He starts swearing and yelling about how they let his food sit and get cold. He was screaming about calling the manager and how he would have had it delivered if he wanted cold food. He didn't give them much of a chance to get a word in other than, "Sorry, we did ask if we could help you." He kept yelling BS about how he demanded to know the manager's name, why won't they give him the name? And they were like, "It's literally printed on the window, it's not a secret." This was a few years ago, so I don't remember much, other than it just being appalling. He took off yelling, and then my pizza was ready. I didn't have much money at the time, but I made sure to personally tip all of the staff on site at the time an extra $1 or $2. We called the manager and explained that there would be a complaint and that it was bullshit. Your story reminded me of this. This is how you do it. It's a Karen counter-strike. Far too many people will take the time to complain over a perceived injustice, but far too few will take the time to offer a compliment or serve as positive reinforcement. Great job! You certainly did a good deed this day and offered thanks to a retail associate who very likely rarely received gratitude for doing their job properly. From someone who spent many years working in customer service industries, I applaud you and I sincerely thank you. This TSA line is too long. I am a supervisor for several stores and shops at DFW. One of my stores is right next to the main TSA station entrance in our busiest terminal. I cover the store occasionally when my employees need a break, so I get to watch the antics that take place. The line can get really long and there are always a few people who inevitably change through the line and try to get through via the employee entrance, which requires an FBI-approved DFW badge. I've seen people try to cut the line because I have a flight to catch, or one lady said, "Oh no, I don't have to wait in line because I'm flying first class," and some that ask, "So where is the shorter line?" Most people of course know the drill, but the entitled people, who haven't paid for TSA pre-hack, who insist that they must cut in front of others, is sometimes hysterical. I know some may not know better, but most are just entitled people who don't think they have to do what everyone else has to do. On a similar note, do not ever act entitled to an immigration officer, no matter where. They can and will give you a hard time. Seen it at Russia, Zimbabwe, and the US. Especially funny when Karen claims to be a seasoned traveler who knows how to get through. Many years ago we were at the Pakistan/Afghan border, the 70s, and the young US drivers of a combi van made some rude comments in the line in front of us. We were a family with a kid, in a similar combi van, and my dad was being respectful. We got waved through. The young guys had their belongings pulled apart, including a beautiful sitar. I've found that the easiest way to get through US Customs is to travel on a red official passport. They just waved us on through. Of course Karen doesn't have one, nor a diplomatic black passport. LOL at TSA pre-hack. I thank you for the laugh during an annoyingly boring dialysis treatment. I use TSA pre-check. I recently traveled with 4 friends who do not have it. The TSA lines were average length. Short story, I was in the bar about to order my second beer before they caught up to me. As an outside observer, Aussie, I note with interest the paying for a pre-check capitalism enlightened self-interest at work. Right? I came in and saw everyone praising having to pay more, just to get through to you fight with less hassle. I guess I am old enough to remember when you could get through to your flight without being groped. We flew last Saturday. The TSA pre-check line was longer than the regular line, but people still got in that line. Yes. I see that happen here as well with more and more frequency. TSA pre-check may become a casualty of its own success at some point, but that line still moves faster than the other line. Even though the line may be longer, it moves faster because passengers don't need to remove shoes/toiletries/computers. And hopefully, if the TSA lines do continue to get longer, TSA will put more of them in to reduce their length. One time a woman got pissed at me because I was walking to TSA and she asked me if I was going to the TSA line and I said yes, so she started following me. Whatever, we were both going in the same direction. However, when we got to the guy who checks your ID and he said, "Ma'am, your TSA pre-check," and she scoffed and went, "I was told this was the TSA line," and huffed away. I don't think she realized that the whole area is run by the TSA. When's your flight? A few years ago, my wife and I were making our way to Gatwick for a bit of holiday. Back in the day, that one could buy their train ticket to Gatwick at the turnstile, before they got into the airport proper. Failure to do so results in a penalty charge of twice the maximum ticket price. Or £80, whichever is greater, a mantra any traveling Londoner was well familiar with, since it's posted all over the train network and automatically announced in all trains and stations. This was an evening flight, so the train guy wasn't immediately there to take payments, since it was pretty quiet. Also back then, the portable pay machines were bulky and slow, so it wasn't like swiping your card and then off you go. But of course, as one does with international travel, one leaves themselves plenty of time for such hiccups. We were about 4th or 5th in the queue when Karen huffs and puffs her to the turnstile, only to discover that the gate wouldn't let her past. The train guy looks up and points to the big sign explaining the ticketing and penalty charge, then goes back to processing payments. Karen decides that she needs to be at the front of the queue, but before any of us get all up in arms, the train guy directs her to the back of the queue. Karen so unpredictably bemoans the fact that she's running late and she still needs to check in and get through security. Train guy suggests she ask nicely of the people in front of her to let her in. Karen's version of nice amounts to, and I quote, "When's your flight?" I can't imagine why the older couple at the front of the queue said no. Nor can I fathom why guy number 2 also didn't yield his spot. By the time Karen got to the lady in front of us, she was getting more and more baffled as to why her winning personality failed to win friends and influence people. "Karen, what time's your flight?" Lady on front, "Oh, I've got loads of time, my flight isn't for ages, but I was organized and got here early, unlike you." My wife and I were laughing so hard that Karen didn't even bother asking us, or anyone else behind us, and went to the back of queue in proper British style. By the way, lady in front really did have loads of time. We later walked past her, chilling at one of the lounge bars, drink in hand, and we just grinned at her grinning, squinting face. Rolling on the floor laughing, love the karma and that burn. Rolling on the floor laughing. You were taking a train internationally, from London? I am so confused, someone please enlighten me? Gatwick is just outside London and has an airport. Most people leaving London via Gatwick would take the short train journey to reach the airport for their flight. Virtually everyone queuing to buy a ticket on the Gatwick Express would be doing so for a flight, or I suppose could be working at the airport. You get a shuttle train to the airport. Gatwick isn't actually in central London. It's kind of usual. And of course you can get international trains from London to places like Paris, Amsterdam, and more, but that's from Street Pancras and not what OP is referring to. I never could understand the rationale for cutting lines. With the portable pay machines, I believe you meant bulky, not always working properly, rather than bulky, taking up a lot of space. Just curious, what's a proper queue in British style? If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.